Let's start with this.
Washington Post Stan Lamothe reporting U.S. sends thousands more troops to the Middle East as Trump seeks to squeeze Iran. The deployment includes sailors and Marines due to arrive as the administration attempts to enforce a maritime blockade against the regime in Tehran. Pentagon sending some 6,000 troops.
Again, if Trump needed these troops, he should have sent them there before he bombed the Supreme Leader. Building up your forces after you bomb Supreme Leader is just allowing Iran for like nearly 7 weeks now. Strait of Hormuz closed, doing damage to the world economy.
Aboard the aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush, several warships are escorting it. About 4,200 others with the Boxer Amphibious Group and its embarked Marine Corps Task Force, the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, are also expected to arrive near the end of this month. So this infusion of firepower, quote, appears likely to coalesce with warships already in the Middle East as a 2-week ceasefire is set to expire. The troops will then join the estimated 50,000 persons.
They're going to arrive as the ceasefire runs out. So perfect timing for that, right?
Now, the Pentagon has said, are involved in operations against Iran. So, Emily, I mean, something Crystal and I always point out, these ceasefires, there's talks, there's reports, there's all this. You got to follow the troops. You don't send 2 or 3 aircraft carriers to the Middle East, sail it around the Horn of Africa, all to come there with tens of thousands of troops that are all on their way. The 82nd Airborne is already there, and you got these Marine Expeditionary Forces that are coming from Asia, not to use them, at least so far in the Trump administration. Every time there was thousands of troops in the Caribbean, all their talk about Maduro, at the end of the day, what do? We went and we kidnapped him. So here with Iran.
If things were really going well for us in the Middle East, we would not be sending our aircraft carrier. Like, this is the route the aircraft carrier is taking from the United States across here, around the Horn of Africa up here. Why aren't we taking the faster route right here through Europe, directly here? Well, you see there's this group of rebel called the Houthis, this region right here, and we're afraid they might attack our sea. Very narrow here. We're afraid to send an aircraft carrier through there. So we're going around all of Africa because of that. That is not a sign that we're winning the war.
Iran, it's very unlikely usually, to not have to have all these forces and not use them. You could say it is a deterrent effect, and it certainly has been in U.S. history. But with this president, when the troops are there, he tends to use them. That's just my general analysis. I'm curious for your views.
Pretty much every time so far.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because actually just within the last 20 or so minutes, the Associated Press is out with a report. I'm reading from the, so they're saying that—
F2, please, while she's talking.
Yeah, we can pop that up on the screen. So they're saying that in principle, there's an agreement on the table. And this is what is interesting about your point, Sagar, that you're following the troops and not necessarily just the deals. Because Trump said on, we're going to cover this in a bit, Maria Bartiromo show this morning, it's going to be a big 2 days in the Iran ceasefire negotiations. Pay attention to the next 2 days. So is this what his 2-day, was it this in principle agreement? Is that what he was telegraphing in the watch the next 48 hours? And how significant actually is that?
Let's break it down, right? So this is an AP headline. It comes from Cairo, so always take a look at the dateline. It says, mediators moved closer Wednesday to extending the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran and restarting negotiations to salvage the fragile truce before it expires.
Unless Iran agrees to open the Strait of Hormuz, which now that U.S. is doing naval blockade, I don't think the United States is even asking for anymore. Or actually, if Iran actually did agree to stop doing tolls and let everyone through, the United States would drop the blockade immediately, because Trump is so desperate for that. But the extension of the ceasefire, the current route, as long as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, there can't be an extended ceasefire. Trump needs to do something. He can't just walk away with Strait of Hormuz closed, or the entire world will drag him back into it, because he is responsible. The only way for this to end is for him, Trump, to surrender, to capitulate to Iran. And that's what basically Iran is demanding. And the entire world is suffering because of that. The entire world will eventually, I think, organize together. Russia and China will talk to the Middle East states, and the most impacted Southeast Asian states like Japan, South Korea will also come together, and they all start pressuring the U.S. president, get the straits open, even if you have to surrender. Of course, that's probably going to take another month or two, and the longer straits remain closed, the more the world gets desperate, and the greater the pressure on Trump. Eventually, they'll be forced to capitulate.
Senior Iranian military official threatened to halt trade in the region if the U.S. does not lift its naval blockade. So that's all we got, all right? No, the Dateline. It's from Cairo.
And nobody else is running with this.
Nobody else is running it. It's the Egyptians who are leaking it. That's fine. Maybe it's true. But Egypt, has it really been the drive?
Yeah, Egypt. If it was Pakistan, it'd have a lot more weight. Anyway, let's move on.
All right, inflation, shall we? Inflation. We have Donald Trump. He gave an interesting interview here with Maria Bartiromo. Here he is saying that the Iran war is closer than ever. And guys, let's just run it concurrent with him talking about inflation. So let's take a listen to these 2 clips.
I had to divert because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over. Yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what?
Wishful thinking. A president that's running entirely on wishful thinking.
If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think.
Yeah. But if they keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, or if they destroy all the oil infrastructure in the Gulf in response to something you do, well, then the United States is going back to the Stone Age too, because that economic crisis would it would accelerate the dollar's collapse by maybe 5 years or so. The dollar would collapse within like 3 years if all the oil infrastructure in the Gulf goes down. That wrecks the petrodollar. That causes all types of anger against the United States. It would be that is the route where the U.S. dollar collapses the fastest. So, and our ability to finance ourselves through deficits is gone. We don't have an industrial base anymore, so it's just like what happened after the collapse of the Soviet Union, except maybe even worse.
I think they want to make a deal very badly.
Is that going to be enough to offset the increase in gasoline prices?
It will be, because gasoline's coming down very soon and very big.
Wishful thinking. Strait of Hormuz still closed 7 weeks in. Even if it opened now, gas prices are going to be up for the rest of the year.
So you think gas prices will be lower before the midterm elections?
I think they'll be much lower before midterm, much lower, yes.
Okay. Now,
absolutely impossible. That, what Trump just said, is a straight up lie.
I mean, that's on the assumption that we stop a country that cannot have a nuclear weapon from. If you give Iran a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, ask people around the world. What would you prefer? The global economy completely collapsing or Iran getting a nuke? I think a lot of people would choose, especially people that don't live in the Middle East, choose Iran getting the nuke.
You want to see bad stock markets? You won't have a country. The world will be blown up. You can't do it. You cannot do it. So on the assumption we have that settled.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be America. Maybe Israel would be in trouble, but not us here. They don't have any ability to send a nuke over here to the United States.
Hopefully long before that, and maybe almost immediately. Could be very soon.
Could be very soon. On the assumption that we have it solved by them, yeah, I don't think so. So it's what's today's date? It's April. All right, so the midterms are in 6 months. What we know from right now is that the amount of oil backlog and just shock generally to production is a minimum.
Another commenter earlier today said 210. Some oil actually sold for 210. It was a particularly high price. It's averaging, I think, 150. But it's spiking up there during like bouts of panic. You get some really high prices in the oil market right now.
Minimum of 3 to 4 months.
This is a spot market. The futures market is complete nonsense. Yeah, it's still, again, most likely because of derivatives. They can't afford to let it go higher than 100. Yeah, they're locking it at 100. But the real price of oil is up here. If you need to buy oil right now to put on a tanker, you're paying between 150 and 200.
Before things can somewhat resume to normal. That's if things end today, all right? So not some like, oh, in the future and all of that. So we have 27% cut from OPEC. Let's put, what is it?
Can we just pause? Because while that was happening, I went and pulled up what Donald Trump actually told Maria Bartiromo herself 2 days ago on Sunday Morning Futures. She asked him the exact same question. Do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections? This was Donald Trump's answer. I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be or the same, or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same. I think this won't be that much longer. He's saying in 2 days ago, an interview with the exact same person to the exact same question, maybe actually it'll be higher. And then 2 days later, he's like, no, it'll be much lower. It's coming down soon.
Right. And let's put A6 on the screen just to give everybody an idea. We still remain at $4.11 a gallon here nationally. And I mean, in some ways, the national price isn't really like reflective. If we take the major population centers, so let's take like what's the biggest population in the country, California. They're paying $5.87 a gallon. Next is what, Texas,
California
right?
is
So
a
they're paying
disaster
$3.76
area.
Florida, $4.14 a gallon. New York State, $4.12 a gallon.
So high entirely because of the policies of this state.
Pennsylvania, $4.13 a gallon. I mean, if you actually look at the most populous states in the country, it's actually higher in most cases, except for Texas, where all the refineries are, from what the national average is. And, you know, even the Pacific Northwest is just getting absolutely hammered. But also, you know, the entire Acela corridor, from everything I'm seeing, is well over $4 a gallon on top of Florida. And so, yeah, like maybe like more rural states or, you know, North Dakota or Nebraska are $3.60 or something. But the vast majority of people are paying well into $4 a gallon, which is, at this point, I saw a gas analyst say that they have spent tens of billions more on gas than if this war had never happened. So it's not just about the cost to the United States, which is probably what, I don't know, 50, 60 billion just in sheer hard cost from what the Iran war has cost. Think about all the money out of our pocketbooks that is just spent on gas, not to mention everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so
But we haven't even begun experiencing the pain. The last shipment of gas, 15th, today is when the last shipment from the Persian Gulf is reaching Texas, basically. So in the next week, we're going to see gas prices go up even more.
with inflation, it's really pernicious. Let's put A1 up here. This was from the IMF. They say that the Middle East war will slow global economic growth. The conflict will fuel another bout of inflation. War in the Middle East has upended the global economy, and they say specifically they have downgraded all growth forecasts globally, exposing the economic fallout. Quote, the global outlook is abruptly darkened following the outbreak of war in the Middle East.
Yep.
The war interrupted what had been a steady.
We looked into that yesterday, but if Strait of Hormuz remain closed another like month or two, yeah, we're looking for like 15% like plunge in GDP globally, or worse.
Steady growth trajectory. Here's the kill shot. In the best case scenario, the fund expects global growth to fall to 3.1% this year from 3.4. That is down from the 3.3 that the fund projected in January, and it is also lower than 3.4 growth that it was prepared to project before the war broke out and oil shipments across the Middle East happened. Now, of course, GDP growth and all that is not everything, as we've covered ad nauseum here on the show. But I think in this case, what we do know is that it's going to hit specifically the consumer sector, which is the lifeblood of the U.S. economy.
We'll see what happens with the Fed too.
Right.
Big
high inflation. You know, how are you going?
Yeah, this is going to have an impact on interest rates. Whatever they do, they would have cut rates more if they cut rates, and they probably won't cut rates. Not with this. They'll probably just keep them steady.
How are you going to affect rates? They're almost certainly not going to cut rates. What's the mortgage rate now today? Like 7%?
It's up there. It's an unanswered question for Trump when he, that's
disaster, right? And then his own.
Trump wanted interest rates to fall going into the midterms. If the interest rates were falling going into the midterms, that boosts the economy, boosts the stock market, that makes it more likely for Republicans to win. Just the inability to lower interest rates is just one more, point of pain for the Republican Party going into the midterms.
Own guy, what is it, Kevin Warsh, I think is before the U.S. Senate. Sometime soon, his vote is supposed to happen. He's going to face significant questions over it. He may not even get confirmed, as I understand it, because he has problems with, what's his name, Tom Tillis, is that right? Over at North Carolina?
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also, we have to comment on this. We talked yesterday about the DoorDash grandma. Grim sentence here in the U.S. She was brought to the Oval Office to talk about how she has benefited from no tax on tips. You ask me, you hear a story like hers, that story shouldn't be there, period, and definitely shouldn't be helped by no tax on tips. Let's take a listen to her.
My tips were over half of my income from last year. So
that's a life changer.
Yes, it is. It is. And when
Yes, but all the extra money she's making from not having no tax on tips is going to go bye-bye because of this Iran war. Because of the extra time. She DoorDashed that, and that means she's driving. The fuel is cost for her. She's going to be hurt by the Iran war more than she's going to be helped by the no tax on tips.
You know, like I said, when you're dealing with someone that has gone through cancer and, you know, you love them, you don't want to lose them, so you do everything that you can. And, you know, you go through your life savings.
And all the positive things that Trump has done, like no tax on tips, it's all going to be wiped out by this Iran war. He's going to be remembered for that alone. He was a crazy president that decided to bomb Iran's supreme leader and wreck the global economy. That is Trump's legacy now. There's no way to stop it.
This no tax on tips and the help from DoorDash is life-changing.
I mean, look, God bless this lady, but, you know, for me, it's like, what kind of society are we living in here? Ladies delivering DoorDash, grandma who was talking about her husband's cancer treatment and blowing out her life. This is sick, right?
Well, and Trump was just positively gleeful about the entire thing. And this is I mean, he's supposed to be a shock to the system. That's how he pitched himself to the American people. And here he's doing essentially a DoorDash.
Well, if he pitched himself as a shock to the system, he's definitely giving the system a shock with this Iran war. I don't think it's the right system, though.
Commercial, because she's emblazoned with the DoorDash logo, and God bless her, she is amazing. I love her.
Yeah, she's not complaining. I know, exactly. So
and she was a good sport.
But bigger picture, you're like, come on, man. Like this shouldn't even. DoorDash grandma should not be a sentence I'm ever uttering. Period.
Right. And like some of the Trump people were.
I disagree. If the Iran war wasn't happening, I think it's perfectly fine to have that DoorDash grandma there. It's you need stories like that, positive stories that good effect of no tax on tips. Yeah, fine. But yeah, with the Iran war, it becomes a little bit of a joke.
He tipped her $100. I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's so disgusting.
Grim, yeah.
It's so disgusting. But this is the point that you're making, is that it's a symbol of a really broken system. And to see him just gleefully enjoying that symbol of a broken system was pretty gross.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could choose to view it a couple different ways. I think, we were talking about earlier, and I was like, my heart breaks every time you see an older person just delivering DoorDash, just because you're like, man, like, look, I don't want to be very clear. Like, I'm not saying there's no dignity or anything in that, right? Like, you need money and you're working, like, I got all the respect in the world, but I'm saying, what kind of a system is it where people who are of retiring age have to do it to pay for their husband's health care, right? For cancer treatment. That's where I have a real problem. And yeah, with Trump, I mean, they're talking about no tax on tips.
But we need to pay to put migrants in hotels, don't you know? Like in New York City, the city's going to be collapsing because it just has to pay for migrants to stay in hotels. It's not enough to just let them come into the country legally. We need to pay for their hotel stay and pay for their food by giving them cards that they can use at the grocery store. Yes, and when we have to pay for all that, how can we pay for health care for our elderly?
Okay, I mean, look, I'm not going to begrudge anybody for saving $11,000 on their tips.
I mean, those elderly only paid taxes to the U.S. government their entire lives, maybe fought in wars, have participated in our democracy. No, we need to throw all that aside and help people that broke our laws and came here illegally instead.
And which I believe is the maximum amount that a lot of these workers get. I think that's great. However, what do we also know is that, healthcare premiums, which went up 25%, I think, on Obamacare, and even generally for most people, especially if you're not W-2 and you're 1099 and you have to have some semblance of healthcare outside the system, and you have a higher deductible. I mean, I remember, what was it like? They were talking about $5,000 baby checks. Yeah. Do you remember this discourse? Mm-hmm. They were like, we're going to give $5,000 to everybody. I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't even cover my hospital deductible. Yeah. Like literally would not even cover the deductible that was hit whenever I had a child for a I'm not saying you wouldn't take it. I think everybody would take it, but let's be honest here about what the overall effect is. So this is a sick system. DoorDash grandma shouldn't exist. Like, there shouldn't be a DoorDash grandma. Period. DoorDash grandma should just have like the ability. I mean, we know this from. I know a lot of people. I talk a lot of trash on boomers and on property tax.
Yes, but the problem is, you say it shouldn't exist. DoorDash grandma shouldn't exist. But if the media, like you, never covers it, how is it ever going to stop to exist? People need to know about a problem in order to vote against it. But if people like you, we shouldn't even cover it, shouldn't exist, then the alternative media didn't exist. If Trump did exist, DoorDash grandma would never get on the national airwaves. People would never know that this is how broken our system currently is, and there'd be no pressure to fix it. That's how it was been for decades. That's how the problems got to this point, is people like you in mainstream media not covering stories like DoorDash grandma,
etc. But I think I think everybody knows I'm definitely not talking about these people, and the vast majority of people. What is it? 50-something% of elderly U.S. citizens rely almost entirely on Social Security. Yeah. Like, that's really grim, right? I mean, something has gone very, very wrong if you don't have a dollar to your name except the Social.
And yeah, when the dollar goes down, it's Social Security. They'll keep paying something, but it won't be anything compared to what it is today in terms of purchasing power.
Security check, which is coming your way every month.
Well, and may not ever come the way of people our age who are paying into the system. So yeah, and we're wildly overtaxed. So I think that. And I'm talking as a country, not certain people who are wildly undertaxed. But this is to the point about how bleak it is. This woman is now in a position to just, as she said, she wants her husband to live. Like, that was when she said that, she was like, you care about them and you love them and you want them to live. And Donald Trump has this tweak to the system. I like no tax on tips. When you have a divided Congress, you have a really hard time doing anything but tweaks. So I think that's great. Republicans have zero interest in fixing the healthcare system. Yeah. So that's, to me, it's just an extra layer of grossness that you're kind of celebrating. What is?
Yeah. Problem is the Democratic fixes to the healthcare system. don't really fix anything. They just make it worse in a lot of cases, like Obamacare, and just making insurance premiums skyrocket. And one of the fundamental problems with the healthcare system is you have all these illegal aliens going to the emergency room and jacking up the cost for all Americans because they don't pay, and so the hospital needs to bill everyone else, and that cost gets passed on to insurers and to Americans that do pay their bills. And so if you're pro illegal immigration anyway, you have no business at all talking about healthcare. You're the problem.
Good, but is ultimately a tweak without having any interest in fixing the system. And these gig economy companies are, to the extent they're actually profitable, not all of them are, they are just propped up by cash infusions that may not be sustainable. And you have millennials getting used to having 60-something-year-old boomers trying to pay for cancer treatment, delivering them McDonald's like she gave to Trump for $30 for a couple of burgers. It's not a sustainable system. It's not a good system, but it's not a sustainable system either.
I agree. Let's put A3 on the screen just to show you some of the more vulnerable Americans, what they're getting hit with right now. This is from the Farm Bureau. They just released this yesterday. Quote, most farmers cannot afford fertilizer. An overwhelming
this next year, food prices explode.
Majority of America's farmers who responded to a nationwide survey say they cannot afford to purchase enough fertilizer to get them through the year. Percentage who purchase fertilizer vary significantly by region. They say that 70% of respondents say that fertilizer is now so expensive they may not be able to buy all the fertilizer that they need.
Some places, fertilizer up 3 times.
More than 5,700 farmers, both Farm Bureau members and non-members, from every state took the survey. 8 and 10 in the southern U.S. say they can't afford all the supplies, followed by Northeast and West at 69 and 66, respectively, compared to some 48 of the farmers in the Midwest. So obviously, this will have huge impact. But what they say specifically here is that all of this traces back to the Iran war. Spring planting decisions depend heavily on access to fertilizer and diesel fuel, both of which
are exploding in price,
have been impacted by geopolitical risks. Since the escalation of tensions in the Middle East, nitrogen fertilizer prices have risen more than 30%, while combined fuel and fertilizer costs have increased 20 to 40. Urea prices have increased by 40.
The thing is, this really right here is delayed impact. Because farmers planting less crops and using less fertilizer, that doesn't do jack shit to the economy before the harvest come in. And even after the harvest come in, it starts. That's where it begins to have an impact. So the fall is when that begins, and then the price rise because of a shortage of food. That'll hit the beginning of 2027, and so, which is right about now is when food prices will hit their highest. Now next year, so it's Trump. In terms of midterms, Trump is lucky in that food prices will have only started going up, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But oh my God, there's a lot of pain coming next year.
47% since the end of February, marking the largest month-to-month percent increase in the...
And so that next year, this year, main problem is going to be like fuel costs hurting the economy. Next year, it's going to be fuel costs and fertilizer, and food prices hurting the economy.
Price of urea in history. These increases are occurring when producers were already facing tight margins for many consecutive years. So
yeah, I really hate it. There's some farmers that might lose their farms because of this. It sucks.
Food inflation was already one of the worst, things that was hitting the U.S. And then you have this fertilizer problem, which will directly show up in the price of food. I don't know, 6 months probably, and even some of the spot prices.
No, more than 6 months. As someone who covered 2009 food crisis, 2010 food crisis, no. It takes more than 6 months. The harvest, okay, let me put this, there's a delay. Harvest time. The wheat or soybeans or corn gets harvested. It then has to make its way to silos, make its way through the distribution system. And it's a slow process. It make itself through barges to the coast and sent off on tankers. And so there is a delay, just like with oil coming out of the Persian Gulf. So from the harvest time to the time that food gets wherever it needs to for processing. And so you add 2 months after the harvest, 2-3 months before it really, you start to see the real impacts of food shortage. So that's why it's going to be this time next year where it's going to hit fever pitch in terms of food prices.
Prices for things that you will see in the grocery store are already increasing dramatically. A5, please, can we put it up there on the screen? This is about the price of beef. So the live cattle wholesale price in Chicago, I feel like I'm, price.
Also, I will add one thing about food prices. if it's a repeat of the situation in 2009, the USDA issued these wild harvest predictions that it were far higher than they actually were. And that actually led to overconsumption during the first half of the next year. It wasn't until the summer that food prices began spiking. So it is possible, if maybe because of derivatives or they decide to do the same thing again, that it won't be now next year, March next year. It'll be more like the end of summer, where or the middle of summer, where food prices explode. Somewhere between there for sure. Between the peak in food prices will be somewhere between March and July next year.
Are already increasing dramatically. A5, please. Can we put it up there on the screen? This is about the price of beef. So the live cattle wholesale price in Chicago. I feel like I'm 1800s commodity analyst. While everyone is rightfully focused on gasoline and oil, this is Javier Blas writing, the meat market is not giving a respite. Live cattle wholesale price in Chicago have now reached an all-time high, surpassing last October's peak. So you could see that pretty high peak that happened in October of 2025. Yeah. That's when the Trump administration was kind of throwing a lot at the cattle problem. But you could see they only got a marginal decrease in the overall price, far higher than where things were back in 2020. And then just take a look there at where things are right now. So, I mean, this means...
Good for the big guys.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's
the Big Mac is going up in price.
For everybody else. But, I mean, if you just take a look at this, like the vast majority of food at home inflation is apparently now running some 3% year over year. Wages are at 2.4. So there you go. Food is wiping that out. I saw another chart yesterday. I don't think we have it, which was just about cumulative inflation from January of 2021. It's 21%. I mean, that is a 1/5 overall increase in a 5-year period. That's why, I mean,
that's crazy. But back in the 1880s, you basically had 20% inflation nearly in 1980. So in a single year, that's what we're heading for. That is the inflation is going to spiral out of control over the next 5 years, and it's going to get to the point where we have 20% inflation in a single year. And the 5 years after that, it's just going to spiral to infinity. We're in Zimbabwe situation after that, hyperinflation. But next 5 years, spiraling inflation towards 20%.
People talk about sticker shock, and the thing is, I've always felt this about sticker shock. You don't absorb sticker shock month to month. Like I told that story about McDonald's, about going to the McDonald's and getting a medium fry or something, and it was $4.59. I'm like, wait, what? Like, yeah, this is not, I don't do this. This is probably the first medium fry I've bought in like years. And I was like, whoa, man. Like in my head, that's 99 cents. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on? We print $4.50. But yes, I did use the app for all the trolls that are in.
You get trolled about not using the app?
Yeah, well, because one time I paid like $20 and then all these people were furious. They're like, well, you have to use the app. I'm like, okay, I'll use the app. You gave them all my data. And now I get 90 notifications a day about free breakfast. Yeah. And I was like, fine. I did it all, apparently still to pay $4.59 for a medium fry. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? But I feel like that's what most people just remember, those viral images every day of like old Chipotle prices from when you and I are in college, right? They're paying like $8 and now you go and they're like, oh, we have a new sauce and it's $2. You're like, whoa, like, the bowl's like $14 and you're like 16, 17.
Food prices are going to have gone up a lot and they're going to go up a lot more.
$17, $18 with tax. It's madness.
Yeah, no, I went to Chick-fil-A the other day and I couldn't believe the bill for like two basic. Yeah, it was shocking.
Yeah, same thing. I don't get. So what's the price now? What's like?
No, if we were in a world with a functioning media and a functioning economy, a functioning financial system, what should be going on right now is an increase in food prices immediately, right now, in anticipation of a lower harvest in the fall because lack of fertilizer. And so if you boost food prices now and conserve some of the current harvest for next year, it means that prices would spike less next year. We might get 30, 40% less from the upcoming harvest, but if we save 10 to 20% of the last harvest, more than normal, that would help enormously. But there's midterms coming up, so that's not going to happen. The food prices will be kept low. Wheat, corn, soybeans. Prices will be kept low through the midterms in order to try to save a Republican majority. It won't work.
Like a spicy chicken sandwich go for these days?
You think I have this on top of my head?
I'm just thinking. So I'll tell you what I think it should cost. $4. I think it should cost $4.
For the meal or for just the sandwich?
Just a sandwich.
Oh, interesting.
Again, this is what I would remember. Maybe I'm being delusional.
Let's see what it's running for right now. Yeah. All right. It's between $5.39 and $6.99. This is according to Gemini.
There you go. All right, $6.99. All right. Well, sucks out here. Last thing, message from Senator Roger Marshall, GOP senator. Here's what he says about gas prices. Let's take a listen.
Good news is we're the leading producer of oil in the world. We're exporting more than we're importing. We're not standing in lines. That overall wages have been growing faster than inflation under this president. Here it is. It's going to be.
We just heard evidence to the contrary of that. Food prices are growing faster than wages.
Tax day very soon, and Americans are going to get an extra $1,000 or $1,500.
Just have to think, Republicans is struggling to make that argument now. Just imagine how much they're going to struggle in 3-4 months once the Strait of Hormuz are going to obviously going to stay closed at least another few weeks, and so by this summer it's going to be with fuel prices over $5 a gallon everywhere. Oh my God, they're just going to struggle so much trying to explain why this is good.
Rebate as well. So I'm sorry the gas prices are going up, but help is on its way. And your national security, yes, is even more important than your pocketbook.
National security? What national? Iran's the other side of the fucking world. There was no threat to the United States. None.
So actually, the AP did an analysis of this, interestingly enough, showing that with gas prices where they are right now, if it holds steady through the rest of the year, the average tax refund is going to be, or the average tax saving is going to be totally erased by.
Exactly what I was just saying earlier. But if gas prices stay where they are now, they go up, it's more than going to wipe out any tax refund.
The increase in gas prices.
Yeah,
so to Roger Marshall's point, that doesn't even check out. The sentence that came out of his mouth, I'm sorry that gas prices are high.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Dude.
The midterms. Yeah. I mean, look, this is like the most ridiculous.
And you're not even talking about electrical prices. This higher cost, like coal has gone up. All energy, fossil fuels have gone up. And so electrical bills are exploding. Because on top of that, you also have the AI data centers. That perfect storm of AI data centers, like record demand for power, and now this Iran war, closure of Strait of Hormuz. People with solar panels are going to do well this summer.
Ridiculous. And it's so crazy to me how not, can you name a single Republican off the top of your head, not named Thomas Massie, who has said anything
And everyone else is going to suffer.
remotely interesting about this war and about the overall effect? Anything that hasn't reiterated this. I mean, I saw something today. Tim Shee, who's in Montana, the guy who shot himself, right? Allegedly.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. He claimed, what did he say? That it was about whatever. Megyn Kelly basically nailed him dead to rights on that one. But he came out to me about the blockade of the blockade, and he's like, what a judo incredible move. And you're like, dude, like, is this really, like, I don't think he's a stupid person. I really don't.
I think he's a
Yeah, he's like a former naval, I think he's a former.
It might have had an impact if they'd done it day one, blockade of Iran's oil exports day one. But Trump let Iran export a record amount during the first 6 weeks of the war. And it imported so much, it's parked some of it outside of the Persian Gulf, so it could continue selling it if it needed to. Now, when you allow that Iran to do that the first 6 weeks, if you're doing this blockade now, the pain from the closure Strait of Hormuz is already making its way to the economy. And it's going to grow a lot faster for us in the West than it is going to this closure, this prevention of exports from Iran. They won't even begin to feel that for months.
Operator of some special forces or something. I don't think he's dumb, right? And it's like they really default to the lowest IQ level of defense, and everyone's like just sitting there eating this slop soup as if it's a reasonable political thing.
If you're talking about eating slop soup, I've been watching the American people eat slop soup from mainstream media for years. Complete and utter nonsense. And that's part of the reason we're in this war, young man. It's just Iran is evil. A mantra repeated through mainstream media for decades. Even like when we helped Saddam Hussein gas with chemical weapons, gas hundreds of thousands of Iranians, and still somehow the Iranians are the bad ones. Yeah. I'm not saying they're perfect, but wasn't the Iranians that funded ISIS in Syria, that funded the genocide of 1 million Christians in Syria? Was not Iran who did that.
Thing to say. You genuinely would think that people interested in their political future could come up with something better than this nonsense. But apparently that
it was the CIA and Mossad by the propped up ISIS. That's who did it.
how indefensible The entire thing is. It's just so crazy.
I would say he is a seal. And also I found this AP trajectory. They say, according to the Associated Press, quote, the average household would pay $740 more in gas this year, nearly equal to the $748 increase in refunds that the Tax Foundation, which is conservative roughly, has estimated the average household will receive. Boom, gone. Sorry, Roger Marshall.
Yeah, literally dead. Right, exactly. And that's just now.
And that's also just gas. That doesn't even actually account for how the gas prices are trickling into everything else that you're paying for.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
including electrical bills.
how everybody always does, like the Thanksgiving dinner inflation index.
Yeah.
Someone should do, I mean, honestly, with the beef thing, let's think about it. It's all summer, so it's barbecue season. It's like, how much more cumulatively, if you wanted to do burgers or something like that, are you going to pay? Because it's not just a one-time dinner event. It's an entire season of where this is, you know, significant increase in uptake. I'm going to guess probably at least a few.
And we haven't even gotten to the job losses. That's another delayed impact in that companies get hit by these higher prices. They don't immediately fold. They try to struggle to survive, figure out a way to make ends meet. Then after a couple months, they get the ones on the edge to just go under and have to fire everyone. So right around this summer, we're going to start seeing big layoffs and companies just closing business. And right when prices are keep on going up, it's stagflation. The beginning of a long period of stagflation.
$200, I think, per household compared to normal. So yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and what is
on top of gas?
Just last thought, what does this do for Trump's tariffs? What does he? How does he deal with tariffs if he has price increases like this steadily going into the midterms? Does it crush his tariff agenda?
Yeah. Wow.
More uncertainty from that.
There you go. All right, let's get to polling. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like.
Yeah. Actually, I will hit the like button. And let's see what else. Oh, Megyn Kelly pronounces the death of manga, which
My friends,
I agree that the manga with Trump as the lead might be dead because that's gone. The manga underlying movement of Make America First, that's not dead.
that's it. Other than Fox News boomers, there's no one left. There's no one left in the original MAGA coalition.
Megyn Kelly has declared that President Donald Trump's 2024 coalition is dead, gone, fractured, destroyed. And honestly, she's not wrong. So in fact, Harry Enton makes it abundantly clear that she is absolutely correct about this. She's onto something. Take a look.
This is, by the way, I'm sure there are some people on the left out of glee exaggerating how much Trump's base has fallen out with him. I think at this point in time, it's not there yet. Like, for example, just use Asmongold as a barometer. He hasn't fallen out with Trump yet. And he represents a big group of Americans. Give it another month. I actually thought it would he'd had beginning to turn on Trump over the Iran war by now, but he hasn't covered it really seriously in the last at least 2 weeks. So we'll see his opinion next time he does. It's going to turn on him. When I say the manga coalition, by this summer, when fuel prices start heading up towards $6 a gallon, yeah, there's going to be some. It's dead. I agree with it in anticipation of that and economic pain headed our way. People are going like, why the fuck did you do this? Why the fuck did you start this Iran war? Opinion is going to turn against the Iran war in a big way going into the summer. And Trump is connected to this war. He owns the war. He's the cause of the war. Turning against the war, his base will turn against him too.
This is a ruh-roh moment, to quote the great Scooby-Doo. Trump's net approval rating.
And Trump knows this, which is why he keeps on saying, we are winning the war, we're winning war. That's why he's not accepting anything other than Iranian surrender. Because that's the minimum he needs to survive. If Iran completely surrendered right now and opened Strait of Hormuz, he might be able to salvage the midterms just barely if they gave him everything, including nuclear material. And now you have oil flowing again, and that could limit damage there. Yeah, he might just barely survive. But since there's zero chance of that happening, finished.
With non-college whites, look at this. In February of 2025, it was plus 32 points. Down it goes. Look at Johnny. Johnny is just shocked by this number. And now it is minus 2 points. That is a...
Look at that swing.
A 34-point shift. And I will note this is an average of polls. This is not just one poll. I've averaged 3 different polls here, 3 big pollsters. It's the economy, smarty, when I'm talking with Mr. Berman. Just take a look here. I mean, again, look at this. On the economy, his net approval rating, non-college rates. You go back to February 2025, he was 26 points above water. Look at this shift. Minus 15 points. What about the war? Well, the war ain't helping him because just take a look here. Non-college whites, net approval rating of U.S. military action against Iran. Yep. Minus 5 points. You think that's slow? Come over to this side of the screen. How about Trump on Iran? Minus 13 points. A very unlucky 13 indeed for the president of the United States.
Yep. So that's all I wanted to show from this. It's, yeah, that is why when the day Trump decided to bomb the Supreme Leader, on that same day, I found out that he was seeking a ceasefire via Italy. I knew he was finished because if it had been instant regime change and the Strait of Hormuz had never closed, then yes, he could have survived the Iran war. But that didn't happen. As soon as they closed Strait of Hormuz and the government didn't collapse, Trump was stated to go down as one of the worst presidents we've ever had. And it's entirely his fault. He was tricked into an idiotic war. And the only way they could trick him into the idiotic war is that he didn't fear the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. He didn't. Anyone like me is like, well, okay, maybe there's a 90% chance that Netanyahu is right about that is a 10% chance that my presidency is fucked. That 10% chance would stop me. Even if I believed Netanyahu, which there's no way I would.
Joining us now is Shael Ben Ephraim. He is a geopolitical analyst and has put out a lot of interesting stuff on this new meeting between the Israelis and the Lebanese for a potential ceasefire. Shael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Sure, always a pleasure.
So let's go ahead and put this up here on the screen, D1. The Lebanese and Israeli diplomats held this face-to-face meeting here in Washington. It was the first of its kind in many, many years, but you are very skeptical of some sort of a ceasefire. Could you maybe set the table for some of the history leading up to this moment and what you make of the development so far?
Yeah, well, this is the first face-to-face meeting since the 1980s, when also extreme violence in the region led to a series of meetings under American pressure and through the mediation of other Middle Eastern countries. And that's again what happened here. The United States has put a lot of pressure on the Lebanese government and on Israel to discuss a ceasefire. But there's absolutely no chance of it succeeding because Israel has plans to dismember Lebanon completely, take over a security zone all the way up to the Litani River. And what the Lebanese want is just a ceasefire, just for Israel to stop firing. But Israel wants part of the country and wants Lebanon to try to dismantle Hezbollah. Now, the public...
Yeah, it wants the complete surrender of Lebanon, basically. That's what Israel wants. By not being in position to impose that and having lost like 140 tanks now or more. Yeah, it's not going well for Israel in Lebanon. And yeah.
Public opinion in Lebanon is wildly against any kind of deal with Israel because the kind of deal that Israel and the United States are looking for involves normalization of the relationship and peace while Israel takes away part of Lebanon's land. And even if the normalization involved giving up no land, there is very few people in Lebanon who are for normalization. 70 to 80%, depending on poll, are against normalization without giving up land. With giving up land, you probably wouldn't find a single Lebanese person who would be willing to normalize. And meanwhile, Israel is demanding that Lebanon dismantle Hezbollah, which there's no support for whatsoever in Lebanon, especially with this invasion. Before this invasion, there probably would have been some support for it, but much less now. But even if Lebanon wanted to dismantle Hezbollah, they couldn't. Israel can't dismantle Hezbollah with its massive army, and Lebanon couldn't. Lebanon's also on the verge of becoming a failed state since 2022. Lebanon has been involved in an almost complete economic collapse. Their currency has almost no value. They've lost 15% of their population leaving, and that's mostly the liberals and moderates who might want normalization. Right. So the whole thing is a farce.
Yeah, we can start rolling some of this footage in D2. This is recent strikes in southern Lebanon. And Shael, can you help us understand, to your point about support previously for dismantling Hezbollah, defeating Hezbollah, how significant these strikes have been and basically how they may have undermined the cause of actually squelching Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to oversell the process.
Yeah, that's civilian area. Just bombing civilians.
Of anything happening regarding...
If Israel does kill any Hezbollah members in these bombing, it's because they just got lucky. And It's not the yeah. If you just bomb a big enough area, eventually you'll kill some Hezbollah members, right? Among the innocent civilians.
Hezbollah before all this happened, but as you can see, Israel is committing all sorts of war crimes and atrocities in Lebanon.
Look at that one.
As you can see,
look at that. Apartment buildings, all these apartment buildings. You think this area is just full of Lebanon Hezbollah firefighters? No, this is just a civilian area. There might be some Hezbollah members living here, or family members of them, but yeah, this is just kill it. This is what they did in Gaza, just leveling the area, turning it into. If you make it uninhabitable, people have to move. Like it's difficult to get to forcibly. Imagine if you're Israel's goal, your goal is to forcibly evict all these people and get them to move to northern Lebanon. Why would they move where they still have houses? That's why you have to bomb their houses. That's how you do ethnic cleansing. It's if they're in the houses, they die. But if they're at work, whatever, if they don't have a home, they're forced to move somewhere else. And you bomb everything in an area, well, they are forced to move to a different area.
You see, Israel is committing all sorts of war crimes and atrocities in Lebanon, the kind of atrocities that no country could put up with silently, and that public opinion absolutely will not allow for the government to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not only has Israel killed all these people, a large portion of which are children, as usual, and not only is Israel operating deep inside Lebanon, but it's destroying entire villages. The first 3 lines of villages, what you're seeing in that footage is the first line of villages. The first 3 lines of villages above Israel are slated for complete and total destruction. Every single building is going to be destroyed. And instead of those villages, Israel's going to build a network of military bases. Mm-hmm. There's a big debate in the IDF over whether to continue to destroy the next levels and the next levels and where these bases will be. The occupation...
completely destroying the villages of a country and then building military bases in the ruins of those villages. That is what Israel does. It's what it's doing in Syria. It's how they're operating in Gaza.
Israel's planning is permanent. Every single person in Lebanon is very aware of that. And no matter what your feelings are about it.
But Iran, for this war to end, is going to be like, get the fuck out of Lebanon. That's what's going to happen. I mean, this war, this Strait of Hormuz does not open without every IDF soldiers getting out of Lebanon. I guarantee you that. Because only reason Lebanon's getting invaded is because Hezbollah, Iran's ally, decided to attack to support Iran. So Iran's going to return the favor and demand that all IDF withdraw from Lebanon. And if Israel isn't willing to do that, well, then the Straits of Hormuz will not open.
Hezbollah, no matter what your feelings are about the West and normalization, no one is willing to countenance this complete destruction of the Lebanese nation. And even people who hate Hezbollah the most and hate the Shiites the most can't imagine allowing this sort of thing to happen. Hezbollah is the only force in Lebanon that is standing up to Israel, and that will increase their popularity among neutral people. And this isn't the first time this happened. This happened also in the previous conflict and in much greater magnitude of order in the Second Lebanon War. And also in 2000, when Israel withdrew from Lebanon, that was also a big boon for Hezbollah's popularity, put Hezbollah on the verge of controlling the entire country. And now, with the Shiites being an even larger part of the population for demographic reasons, because people from other sectors are leaving and because they have a higher birth rate, this will possibly once again turn Hezbollah into the leading political force in the country, and that's due to Israeli policy. And
this is very important to underscore, Shael. And one of the reasons we wanted to get into the nitty-gritty is that this is vital to the success, or at least it seems, of any sort of deal between the United States and Iran. A core tenet of that was a ceasefire with Lebanon. Now, as you're explaining it, because I don't think people may understand all of the details, is that these talks are between the Lebanese government and the Israelis. But it is to resolve, fundamentally, a Hezbollah problem, which they have at least a limited amount of control over from the Lebanese government, or maybe no control at all, because the Hezbollah has rejected this. So for some sort of tenable ceasefire to occur from the Israeli side, it would effectively mean that the Lebanese government would have to agree to de facto annexation, occupation, and control of half of this country. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. Lebanon, it would have to completely surrender.
Or what would have to happen is Trump pressures Israel into just withdrawing from Lebanon. That would allow a ceasefire too. I don't see that happening. It would be admission of loss by Trump. You can't pretend. You can't say he's winning the war and everything. If he, in order to get truce, he twists Israel's arm to get them out of Lebanon. No, he won't be able to sell this as a victory anymore, which is why he won't do it for at least not for a while.
The sovereignty of part of the country. That is an Israeli demand. They're giving Lebanon a map. And they're saying in the south, there's going to be 3 different zones. One where we completely directly control and destroy everything. Another one where we have joint control, and one where Israel has the ability to operate freely. There's no government in the world that can agree to that formally. Even if they agree to it de facto, which is also unlikely, agreeing to it formally is like committing suicide for the government of any sovereign nation. And you hit on another very important point, which is that even if Lebanon wanted a ceasefire, they can't have a ceasefire because the Lebanese government and Lebanese army are not fighting against Israel. Hezbollah is. The Americans and Israelis know this perfectly well. So Lebanon can't deliver what Israel is asking.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If Israel was serious about a ceasefire, they wouldn't be negotiating with Lebanese government. They'd be negotiating with Hezbollah. The fact they aren't doing that is proof that they aren't serious about a ceasefire.
For even if it wanted to, and it wouldn't want to, because they want Israel to leave its territory as any sovereign nation would. So this is really one of the most ridiculous negotiations imaginable between a government that not only is not the one firing, but also isn't able to stop the firing, but also doesn't have the legitimacy to reach the deal that the United States and Israel wanted to. So the only reason Israel's agreeing to this is because it gives it cover to continue its operation in Lebanon with some American support, because Americans have been pressured into stopping this from some of their Arab allies. And that's the only reason it exists. It's a fig leaf. And people are talking about how historic it is, and the whole thing is a joke.
Well, I was just going to say, Reuters headline coming out yesterday, U.S. hosts rare Israel-Lebanon talks, quote, progress unclear. And then as soon as we're done with that.
It's amazing. One thing that's really amazing about all this is Israel's operating the same as it has for the last 50 years. And that it's been doing horrible things like it's been doing in Lebanon for decades. But we're in a changed world. There's now alternative media. It is not the mainstream media willing to cover up all of its sins anymore. When bombs apartment buildings, Tucker Carlson to millions of people showing the images. Yeah, and repeat that hundreds of times, people like Asmongold, etc. You can't, and it's turning people against Israel at a record-breaking pace. It's not sustainable. The United States is still, in name, a democracy. And eventually, the will of the people will come through, and it's going to be so toxic to take any money from the Jewish lobby that they might be trying to pay people, but no one will accept the money. And at that point, Israel influence will be gone. And you cut off the U.S. aid to Israel, and the country might just collapse. It's that bad. If not, they'll be forced to be far more reasonable.
Headline, we can put the BBC headline from a couple of days ago up on the screen. Quote, Israel steps up strikes on Lebanon and Hezbollah attacks continue as talks loom. So to your point, Shael, that's stunning. I mean, if you're reading the tea leaves, and I'm curious for your take on what we've heard after the meetings that were hosted here in D.C. yesterday, brokered by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, it confirms your suspicion, or it seems to really confirm your suspicion that this is a fig leaf, that this is a cover to continue with U.S. tacit backing strikes in southern Lebanon. Is that what you're reading after coming out of the last 24 hours, hearing from Israelis seeming to double down on their position after they left the meeting? I mean, that's what it seemed like to me, but I'm curious as an expert what you made of it.
Yeah, so regarding American motivations, to be frank, sometimes it seems like the American officials making the decisions, Marco Rubio maybe doesn't fall into this category, sometimes are too clueless about the Middle East to really understand what they're doing. Sometimes what seems like being nefarious is actually complete ineptitude on their part. From the Israeli point of view, they know exactly what they're doing. They have no intention whatsoever.
Again, they've been doing this for 50 years, the exact same way, just indiscriminate bombing. So they know what they're doing by this point in time.
Of stopping or slowing down. And yes, the level of strikes that we're seeing in Lebanon greatly increased once the United States reached a deal with Iran in order to try to derail it. They wanted this war anyway, and this isn't the reason for the war in order to derail it, but that's a great bonus that they can get to derail it. So a fig leaf is even being charitable. Israel is using this war and these negotiations as a means of sabotaging the wider Iranian deal. And then are offering Lebanon basically what they are going to enforce either way, which is carving up their entire country.
Ultimately, this will backfire on Netanyahu. Netanyahu wanted this war, but this war is going to destroy him. So to be fair, it might have extended his political career a little bit because he's under investigation for corruption and whatnot. By starting this war, yeah, it gives him life, but it'll eventually bring him down regardless. and just because of how opinion is turning against Israel throughout the world. Get to that in just a second.
So yes, the whole thing is a fig leaf, and it's a joke. And I am almost surprised that Lebanon is agreeing to this. They must be under a lot of pressure from other countries, France, the United States, some of their Arab partners, to do this, because they're fully aware of what Israel is doing. The only country that benefits from the existence of these talks, aside from the United States, is Israel. They're basically, Lebanon's basically legitimizing what Israel's doing, even if they're not agreeing to it, just by talking to them.
That's an important point. Now, Shail, here's the big question: if they agree to some sort of a ceasefire, which is occupation, control of half of the country, how would Iran view that? Iran and Hezbollah, because ultimately they have to see it as a ceasefire, not just on Hezbollah.
Oh, Iran's going to demand, again, all IDF out of Lebanon. And this isn't ending until that happens.
This was responded to by the...
This is just an example. This is a tweet by German Prime Minister? No, a German official.
Israelis in a shocking manner. Let's put C5 up here. Chancellor of Germany. He says,
Chancellor of Germany.
I am deeply concerned about developments in the Palestinian territories. In my phone call with the Prime Minister Netanyahu, I made it clear there must be no de facto annexation of the West Bank. So this was responded to by the Israelis in a shocking manner. Let's put C5 up here. So this is Smotrich, right? Israeli minister. He says, on the eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day, the German chancellor should bow his head and apologize 1,000 times on behalf of Germany, rather than daring to preach morality on us on how to conduct ourselves against the Nazis of our generation, who murdered, raped, slaughtered, and burned women, the elderly, and children in the most...
How long do you think, does Israel think it can hold the Holocaust over Germany? Practically no one that was involved in that is alive today. No one. So, yeah, it's a little bit disgusting that Israel is even trying.
Horrific massacre perpetuated against the Jewish people since the terrible Holocaust. We will not accept instructions from the hypocritical leaders in Europe, a continent that is once again losing its conscience and ability to distinguish between good and evil. Mr. Chancellor, the days when Germans dictated to Jews where they are permitted or forbidden to live are over and shall not return. You will not force us into our ghettos again, certainly not in our own land. Our return to the land of Israel, our biblical and historical homeland, is the answer to anyone who tried or tries to destroy us, and we do not apologize for it a single moment. Now,
that's I think people in Israel are going batshit insane.
Let's remember, this is only in response to something that says, I am concerned about developments in the Palestinian territories. I made it clear there must be no de facto annexation of the West Bank. That's what that was in response to. All right. So, all right, you.
I think people, those in Israel, haven't recognized two facts. One, America's military and its is in decline. Its power on the global stage is in decline. And two, the world, including the United States, is turning against Israel because of its actions to a huge degree, especially after the Gaza ethnic cleansing they're conducting in the Gaza. So, yeah, that's nearly as bad as Trump saying we're winning the Iran war.
You could draw your own conclusions about how unhinged their society is right now.
But again, it just goes back to what we were talking about in the polling block and how if, like, none of this is grappling with what just happened in the last several years that turned people away.
Yeah, tons of people have been turned away. Well, I'm going to end this section here for today. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch our kick on Twitch. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.